Welcome back to the OG Gambling Syndicate. I'm Joe Giglio, joined by Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage. Josh, first of all, I know you're ecstatic that NC State won the ACC championship. So congrats to you, man. I know as a Carolina grad, it's a little bit different, but you enjoy such things.
Yeah, no, it was definitely a fun week last week. If I have any on it, it's outside the Virginia just outcome. I didn't think the rest of the week was fluky, and sometimes it's nice to you take wins. However, like if it had taken 5 buzzer beaters, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah,
but there's something to be kind of said about I just thought they started playing well. College kids and momentum is actually and confidence is actually a real thing. And it was just nice that they finally played well, got it together, and then got over it. It always had to be against UNC too. So I was happy. It was a little bit sweeter that it had to be over the stretch of teams that they beat. So good week. Happy for Kevin Keats. Happy for me defending Kevin Keats.
You have been one of his biggest defenders on the social medias. I saw the picture that you had posted too. So all good stuff, man. All good stuff. So let's actually start with the NCAA tournament. And I think most normal people under, illegal gambling still entered into a pool, a bracket pool. I think that's fair to say. It had a large reason to do with the popularity of this tournament. So now that gambling is legal in North Carolina, and just to remind you, if you use DraftKings, use that promo code OG24. If you're a first-time user, you can get up to $250 in bonus bets. So use that OG24 promo code and use DraftKings. They are our official partner here, and those are the odds that we use here on the OG Gambling Syndicate. But if you've learned anything from us from watching about our golf picks, is there's more than just one way to bet on a sporting event. So let's go through a couple of things here with the tournament, Josh. I know everyone's going to have a bracket. I have my own type of pool. You can even pick just straight games. Thursday, you can go live line, however you want to do it. Totals. I don't like totals personally. But here's what I want to do for our purposes today. I want to pick a first round upset, and that is a team to outright win as an upset, as an underdog. I want to pick a Final Four future, meaning money you could put down right now. And so when a team wins their region and makes the Final Four, that's the payout that you would get. And then the national championship, which, let's be honest, usually is going to be a little bit more of a safer pick. So let's start with your first round upset.
Yeah, and get too crazy too off the board, and mainly because when you start looking at these games out, I think when you get past the 116, 215, 3, and then the 413. So take the first 4 lines off, right? Those games, and you get to the 5, so on and so on. The rest of them, all these games are all these teams are the same, which is kind of what you've been saying all year on the regular OG podcasts and such. And the point spreads, do not be surprised, people. When you're picking these games and you're trying to go and you pull up the app because now you can finally legally bet. Do not be surprised when you pull it up and you're like, wait. Washington State is a 1-point underdog to Drake, but Washington State is the 7 seed.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever because a lot of people are going to be dabbling more on these apps and such. I didn't stray too crazy. If you ask me for what is my biggest upset prediction, it would be South Dakota State. I like them if I had to put a flyer, use one of the bonus bets that I got from the OG24 promo code, I would play a $25 bet on them to win at plus 1,000. I believe they're a 15 seed playing Iowa State. I feel like sometimes there's a difference in NC State just did what they did, right? They won 5 games. They won their way in, had to win their way in, all the emotion on that. But now they're showing up to the tournament, and guess what? They're actually underdogs in their game. Iowa State's a little different. They've been playing well all year. They just beat Houston by 30 points in the Big 12 championship, won the championship game. I could see that being just as much of a letdown spot for that team as NC State being in theirs, right? So I like that's kind of the premise on the South Dakota. My biggest upset of the first round, I like Clemson. Clemson, I believe, is a 2.5-point underdog. They actually open up with one of the Mountain West teams, which I guess the Mountain West versus the ACC now is the biggest rivalry in the history of sports, based off of all the discussions and such from last night in regards to the Virginia final. But Clemson is actually an underdog as a 6 seed to the 11 seed New Mexico Lobos. Rick Pitino's son is the coach of that team. And so plus 2.5, and I think the money line's plus 120. Again, it would not be the biggest upset in the history of the NCAA tournament, but I just like Clemson. After what they did in D.C., there's no way I think they cannot come out breathing fire in this opening round matchup against New Mexico. So give me Clemson.
I like the pick for that last reason that you mentioned. Also, something important for those who are new to gambling, or even just new to the apps. You mentioned a bonus bet, and I've had a lot of people ask me, "What's the deal with a bonus bet, and what's the difference between a bonus bet and say your account, the money that's in your account?" With a bonus bet, you only get back the money that you win. So if you risk $25 and let's just say it's plus 100 odds, you would get $25 back into your account. Normally, if you took $25 out of your account, that's the amount you risk. When you get your payout, you get both the money that you win and the amount that you risk. So that's the difference between a bonus bet and just a straight bet that comes out of your account. And if you think about it, what DraftKings doesn't want you to do is just to give you $300 and then have you make one bet and then cash it out. So it's a little bit of protection from their end, but it is still legitimately money that you are allowed to gamble. And if you win those bets, you can then cash out those bets. So I just wanted to explain that real quickly to people who are new to, and quite frankly, it was new to me, Josh, because when I signed up in New Jersey this summer and Virginia this summer, there wasn't all of these offers. So I missed out on a lot of the free money. So I'm kicking myself just a little bit, but not really, because you know me, I enjoyed my runs to Virginia and whatnot. So my first round upset is not that big, much more on the spread side, but I think it is going to be one that people kind of go, James Madison's getting 5.5 against Wisconsin. And I could give you all kinds of reasons. Basketball wise, Wisconsin's typically a team that flops in their first round. They're not an overly athletic team. They're also a team that plays a very specific way, kind of like Virginia. So when they play teams outside their conference, other teams are just kind of like, cool. You want to kill the clock and flop and play
and
shitty old basketball
and not score.
Yeah. Watch me hit a couple threes and just beat you. Okay.
Right.
That's typically why they lose the way that they do in the NCAA tournament. I'm not even going to go on that logic. You're going to love this because you love it when I get stupid.
Okay.
Who was the team of the tournament last year? The belle of the ball last year, if you can remember.
Was it San Diego State? I know made a run. I don't know. I do not remember. I was good to say San Diego State, but it sounds like the way you set it up, it's going to be someone different.
Yeah. So the belle of the ball last year was Florida Atlantic.
Okay. Yeah.
Get to the Final Four, and it was, here's spunky little Florida Atlantic. If you remember last year, no one was talking about Florida Atlantic before the tournament because they were dismissed as, they're just some small, mid-major who dominated their conference. They're not that good. And now this year, one of my picks will be McNeese, and a lot of people are equating McNeese State to be this year's Florida Atlantic. The truth of the matter is Florida Atlantic had a 31-3 record last year when the tournament started. Would you like to guess James Madison's record going into this tournament?
Yes. What is 31-3?
Correct, for $400. And 2 of those losses were to App State. Unbelievable. And pardon me, I'm fighting some allergies here. On the second I got back into the state of North Carolina, I've just gotten a little bit crazy here on my throat here.
The pollen is dominating you. No, continue. I love it because what did we end up seeing out of Florida Atlantic? They're like super athletic.
Yeah,
they got dudes, and like we kind of have, me and you kind of like live by the premise of if you do, let's ride with the dudes, and like that usually a lot of games, especially in basketball, because you don't need a team of 22 guys like in football. Guys who can go out and hoop.
You can make it work with two really good guards usually. So give me JMU as my first round upset. Who do you like as a Final Four future? So future bets, if you're not familiar, they're kind of like the ones we make in golf, top 20s or winners, where we're picking a guy. You're risking, either $50 or $100, and then your return on that. So using my example, Texas A&M is 40-1. So if you bet $100 on Texas A&M to make the Final Four, you would win $4,000. That's a pretty good return, Josh. Now Texas A&M is in the South. They're in the 8-9 line. They have to beat Houston. Houston's very athletic. Houston's very tough. Houston's very defensive. That sounds a lot like Texas A&M. I think there's only a few teams that can play the way that Houston want to play. I think Texas A&M's one of them. I also think that bracket kind of opens up after that little pod there. So I'm going to take Texas A&M and Buzz Williams at that juicy 40-1 number.
I hope the Wolfpack just ruin your day. A&M, Wolfpack in the Elite Eight. Joe's got a $4,000 ticket, and just rip your heart out again.
I'll be okay with that because I'm only risking 100. That's kind of the beauty of a futures bet.
I went a little bit down I'll be honest with you. These things, I don't necessarily love to play them because I think there's a lot more value if you were to take a specific team, roll over their mind each game, and just have like a big parlay. I think you get a lot better number. Baseball and inside gambling that we'll have to get on. We need to do a show one day of just like what are all the other exotic, crazy things you can actually do to like kind of do your odds a little bit better. But I went with Tennessee plus 350 to make the Final Four. I just looked at the other top end teams in their region, and pardon me while I pull it up, but I know that their number one was Purdue. And Purdue we obviously think is the most fraudulent like one seed that there ever was. I mean, sorry, I can't unsee you losing to a 16 seed. Once you've done that, like you got to earn it back. You kind of have to do the Virginia and go win it all, to which then that's another story to talk about Virginia. They don't play the same type of style or anything like that, but they were my sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. I like Tennessee in their region to get out of there. Plus Purdue is in there. I don't trust Creighton. Creighton's the 3 seed. I don't trust Gonzaga this year. They're the 5 seed. I do not trust Kansas. They are injury riddled. They're the 4 seed. You keep going down the board, Texas, TCU, and South Carolina. None of those teams scare me. The different of ball. They've got a dude, Dalton Connect. He can literally win you a tournament just by going for 30 every night. So give me Tennessee plus 350 to make the Final Four.
To quote our friend Chip Patterson, I took a McNeese sprinkle here to win the Midwest for all of the reasons that you just mentioned. Plus, it's 75-1. Again, winning the national championship is different than getting to the Final Four. That's why you see a little bit more of those Cinderella type stories to get to the Final Four. It's difficult to close the book, though, when you get to that level. And speaking of which, we are at that level. Who do you have winning this thing? The national champion.
It's kind of hard to pick like a little small odds to make the Final Four and then not kind of stick with that team when you're looking at the odds. I'm going to stick with Tennessee. I'm going to stick with Tennessee to win it all. Believe that their number came in at plus 1,600. They are, according to DraftKings, they are the number. They have the 5th best, or excuse me, the 6th best odds to win behind UConn, Houston, Purdue, Arizona, and UNC. Actually, Carolina has slightly better odds than they do. I just like Tennessee for all the reasons I said. I feel like once you get there, like everybody's got a chance.
Yes,
anything can happen. I think they actually have a really good shot to get there. Having a 1,600 ticket once they're there is not a bad thing. You would put them up against anybody in the country, head to head or anything like that. So give me the Tennessee Volunteers.
I already have a Carolina ticket, so I'm going to be different here. I'm going to take an Auburn ticket at 17-1. Auburn is with UConn. I don't know what happened, Josh, but UConn's draw is significantly tougher than any other region. I don't understand it as the number 1 overall seed, but they somehow drew Auburn, the SEC champion, Illinois, the Big Ten champion, and Iowa State, the Big 12 champion. That just doesn't make any sense to me. If you put a gun to my head and said, pick one team who you really believe is going to win this tournament, I would say UConn. But I don't like that draw. I'm going to tell you something else I don't like, and this might be, you might think I'm batshit crazy for saying this. I had UConn in the Big East tournament to cover a 9-point spread against St. John's, and they didn't. And the reason they didn't is because they gave up 90 points.
Right.
I mean, that's not Chris Mullen firing threes for St. John's. Okay, that's a team that really is a limited team that Rick Pitino has kind of coached up. So it's not that they didn't cover, although I do believe in that, because Vegas's standard is usually higher than our standards. So for the fact that they gave up 90 points gives me pause. I think Auburn is good enough to beat them. And then I think Auburn would ride that through the confidence of knowing you're the ones who knocked out UConn. So Auburn is my pick to win the national championship. That number is 17-1. All right, before we get into our golf picks for the Valspar, Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage, rtpmortgage.com. You can give him a call. It's 252-361-1415. What's going on, Josh, with both not only the mortgage rates, but the housing market?
It's cooled off a little bit from like the beginning of the year. Rates had kind of dipped a little bit between December, January, and I think just a lot of people had the New Year's resolution thought, like, of everybody, right? Some people go to the gym. Some people wake up January 1st, be like, I'm not renting anymore, and I'm going to buy a house this year. And a little bit of that has rubbed off a little bit, but it's still a solid market. I'm still writing pre-approval letters. People are still shopping around. Again, it sounds like a broken record, but when the rates do start coming back down, the prices are only going to get higher and the competition is going to get higher. So buying now is going to be a better solution than waiting for some, 0.5% or 0.25% in rate or whatever you think that it is, because you'll never make up the difference in rate versus like how much you had to overspend or overpay to get the house that you want, when the competition heats up.
So what's the best thing to do for, let's say, a first-time buyer? Like they need to figure out what they can afford first, right?
Just shoot me a call, 252, it's on the screen, 252-361-1415, or text. We can set up a time to chat. It's usually about 30, 45 minutes. Just go over the process. Here's what you need. Here's your down payment. Here's what your closing costs look like. Here's what rates would look like. Here's what so on and so on would look like. Or a lot of the conversations end up just being, okay, maybe you're not quite ready now. Here's what you need to do to be ready for in the future. So I love helping first-time home buyers. It's a fun time. Get to talk about the nerd out a little bit and such about the market and such. So that's where we are.
All right, let's get to our Valspar picks. And if you're new here to the OG Gambling Syndicate, we like to take first-round leader bets. We take these at $25 increments, and you'll see that the payouts are extraordinary. This is not a great field down in Tampa, Josh. We have the Masters coming up. They just had the Players, so this is a week off for a lot of the top players on the PGA Tour. That does add some value to the bottom of the board with your first-round leader picks. I'm going to pull them up here. As usual, you have some unique names. You have some familiar names as well, but what are your overall thoughts about Valspar and the track? And usually it's another one of those tough Florida tracks, in my opinion.
I believe it's par 70 or 71, I believe. They play on the Copperhead course down there, but it's a unique par 71. It's still a four par fives on the par 71. I believe five. That would give us 5 par threes if we're going to be still a par 71. So that's one piece of it. I went back and kind of looked and did a little bit of recon, and also we are sniffing. Last week we had Nick Taylor. He was one shot out of the first round lead again. I mean, I think that's now 3 weeks in a row where we've had a guy finish second or tied for second for the first round lead and being a shot out. So we are sniffing around. We are not We're not deviating from the plan and from the process. And that's how I came to a bunch of the picks this week. A bunch of the guys are the same ones that we always see: birdie guys, get hot guys, and then some guys do have some good course history here. So that's just kind of where I went. And also just like decent value. I'll kind of start at the top end. I feel like Sung Jae, we're going to roll with him again, but also Cam Young. Cam Young is a guy who can get hot, has got hot, has not won yet. I like the fact that he's 40-1 for the first round lead. $25, he hits, that's $1,000. He's probably one of the better golfers in the field this week, as you can kind of tell by the odds. But those two guys I like. Keegan Bradley's been sniffing around too, 50-1. Same with Keith Mitchell, 55-1. And then a little bit of some of the first round leader. I'm going to kind of jump around, but 4 guys kind of towards the bottom of the list. We got a David Lipsky, we have a Johnny Vegas, we have a Richie Warinsky, and a Scott Stallings. 2 years ago at the Valspar, Lipsky and Johnny Vegas tied for the first round lead. Second place that day, or I guess tied for third that day, Richie Warinsky and Scott Stallings. So those are 4 guys who you can kind of see at the bottom, anywhere from 110-1 to 130-1. Those are 4 guys that have history there, obviously like the track, have seen low numbers there, have shot in the mid-60s there. That's all you need for one round. So that's why we went with those guys kind of towards the end. And then in the middle, Joel Damon's coming off a really good week at the Players. He had not been playing well up to this year, but he played pretty well at Sawgrass. I liked his number at 80-1. Same with Brendan Todd. Brendan Todd's the local guy of the week that we always have to pick. He's 80-1, and him and Chesson Hadley have kind of been alternating of who's going to show up each week, and of the old guy, North Carolina guy variety. So kind of sprinkled the board. I love some of the high end over 100-1 odds down at the bottom. So hopefully we'll catch one this week.
All right. You have a top 20 pick for us from the Valspar?
Yeah, I went with 2 guys. Doug Gim, going to stick with him. He's plus 165 this week. And Keith Mitchell, plus 210. I like the value on both of those guys. I feel like without a bunch of the high end guys aren't playing this week. I mean, these guys are anywhere from probably top 30 to top 60 in the world. So now if you cut out 15 guys that are normally in the top 20 not playing, I feel like their odds are a lot better to sneak into that top 20.
It's funny. I had someone stop me at PNC 2 weeks ago. Hey, love the OG gambling stuff that you do. Please keep up the top 20 picks, in part because for the most part, that's been where we've had our most success, has been the top 20 picks. Last week it was the Players. I didn't want to pick Scotty Scheffler. I ended up picking Scotty Scheffler. I ended up picking him in one and done because you had said it was the biggest purse.
Yeah.
And that turned out well for me. I shot up my board in the one and done pool that I'm in. And now, of course, I can't use Scotty Scheffler again, but I hit. It's more important in those one and done pools to hit when
Correct.
you take those players. Like the previous week, I had Matt Fitzpatrick, and he inexplicably missed the fucking cut.
Did you see the story on Matt Fitzpatrick?
I missed it.
Oh my God. I'm going to send this to you. This was last week. Evidently back in the fall or beginning part of the winter, he was tinkering around with some clubs, and they had added a weight, a smaller bit of weight.
God, are you serious?
Okay. So that was known that it had happened. He forgot it was on there. Hence why he was playing so bad. Guess what happened last week?
He took the weight off.
What did he do?
He top 5, I think.
Just like,
God, you got to be kidding me.
I will send you the article or the tweet that I saw about that. But like, just insanity. Like, basically, he found out before the Players, like, oh, this is why it hasn't been feeling well or hasn't been feeling right, because this weight was still on there.
Well, instead of top 20s, I'll give you my one and done pick. It's the Little B, Brian Harman. Tough track, not a great field. He finished tied for second last week at the Players. Again, and he was top 12 at Arnold Palmer, as you see here, top 5 back at the Century. I just feel like the tougher the track, the better that he plays. And again, when you're thinking about it, when are you going to use Brian Harman? Particularly when in majors now you have so many live options, which has basically been my strategy will be my strategy for the majors. I'll use Brooks, I'll use Bryson DeChambeau, I'll use Joaquin Neiman, and then obviously Rahm will factor in there at some point. There's just too many options in those bigger tournaments that I feel like it's okay to use a Brian Harman, even though he was the Open champion last year. I feel safe using him as a one and done pick this week, and you could see his recent results there. Give me a winner though, Josh. I'm gonna pull up the odds here on DraftKings for the Valspar Championship.
So close last week. So close.
You had a 50-1 ticket on Wyndham Clark, which really would have paid for the rest of our season. I'm not even going to lie to you. I was actually rooting for you. You know, I don't often root for you, and we've decided maybe I shouldn't root for you. It's bad luck when I root for you.
Best player in the world shoots 64 on. I mean,
yeah,
you just
best player in the world who's fighting a back injury. By the way, Xander Schauffele played well last week. He absolutely listened to this podcast and put it in our ear. But there is not a place on the planet where Xander Schauffele should be a plus 650 at pre-flop tournament bet. That's preposterous.
Sam Burns has won this tournament twice, so there's definitely a horses for courses type scenario. I went a little bit further down to Keegan Bradley.
40-1. That's a good number.
For Keegan Bradley. No super crazy reason, except I feel like this is a Keegan course, and I feel like this is a Keegan, not maybe like a Keegan course, a Keegan scenario to kind of he sniffs around, and I just like the value 40-1, like way better than some of the other guys. I looked at Minwoo Lee, I didn't hate his odds. I even looked at Cam Young, like is this the Cam Young week at 25-1 as well? But Keegan Bradley was the one that I would go with, like for the winner / one and done type scenario, because when am I going to use Keegan again except maybe in Connecticut at the Travelers?
I mean he miscut last week, miscut at the Genesis too, but you know he has played well this year. This is a par 71 to your point. One of the other 71s he's played at this, two of the other 71s he played at this year, Sony tied for second and Pebble Beach tied for 11th. So I like that pick as well. All right, Josh, I appreciate you taking some time this week. If you haven't already, hit that button right there, subscribe, like, follow us on the Apple or the Spotify's. And of course, if you are in the market for buying a car or even selling your car, Josh, go to the Heister Automotive Group. It's heisterauto.com. Bennett Johnson will be back for the Masters. Let's give Bennett a little bit of a break and get him back here for the Masters. Josh, enjoy the madness, and if you can, come see us down at the Longleaf Swine Thursday, 1:00. We'll have an NCAA. We'll have the OG live. We'll have tickets to give away to the Carolina Hurricanes, thanks to our friends at Breeze Through. And we'll have bourbon for some of our select listeners. Blanton's Gold. They have it there at the Longleaf Swine, starting at 1 right there on the corner of Edenton and Person. So check us out. Appreciate you guys, and best of luck this week at both the Valspar and the NCAA tournament.